up, everybody? Okay, so today I'm going to be talking with you about how to go on a vacation to an island with two volcanoes on it. And one of these volcanoes is a fire volcano, and the other one is a water volcano. It's not it's dormant, and it's got water in it and waterfalls. And the other one is an active volcano. And you can do this whole vacation in Managua, Nicaragua, for $400 a person per week. And this includes travel expenses within Nicaragua. It includes paying a translator that I can hook you up with to come with you, and paying for all of their fees, like their bus costs, their food, all of this stuff. It's insane. The cost of things here is so cheap that you can do a lot with not much money, okay? So before I get into the details, I just went to Ometepe Island. So I'm going to give you a bunch of information in this video. I'm going to show you all of my expenses. I went with one other friend and another friend who we were paying to be a translator, who I can hook you guys up with. I'll get more into that later on in the video. I'll show the total expense breakdown of our trip. We were gone for 4 days, and in total, with the three of us, it was $430.97. All right, and I'll get more into that later. I'll show you more about where we went. I'll show you pictures of everything and the different places that we went, what kind of stuff we bought, all of this. But first, I need to get to the sponsor of this video, which is Skillshare. If you guys don't know what Skillshare is, I strongly encourage you to check it out. It is essentially a place that you can go to learn things. And it's super effective. Nowadays, it's really hard to pay attention to things. We have so much in the world around us, so many distractions. Who wants to go to school anymore? And who wants to spend hours taking a course? The average Skillshare course is 20 to 60 minutes. It's insane. Like, look at this. 30 minutes, an hour, 47 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 11 minutes. You guys totally have the time to learn anything that you want on Skillshare. And if you're interested, Skillshare is a monthly service. So you pay like $15 a month, and you have access to every single course on Skillshare, including my course on YouTube. So if you want to check Skillshare out, look in the description for a link to my Skillshare profile. If you sign up through this link, you get 2 months of Skillshare for free. That's 60 days where you can use any course on the entire platform. And if you don't like it, you can just stop and you got everything for free. You never had to pay anything. All right, guys. So now that I'm done with that spiel thing, we can get into the vacation itself, right? So I just got back like 4 or 5 days ago, and I went with my friend Lucas and one of our friends, a local Nicaraguan friend, whose name is Mauricio. Mauricio was acting as a translator, so it's kind of like a guide, sort of. Like, he was there and he's our friend, but we were also paying him. And the way this works is that we paid him $10 per person per day. So me and Lucas were part of the group, so that means $20 to the translator. And then also we paid for all of his traveling expenses. And if you are interested in going on a similar vacation like this, contact me. My email is in the description. You can also contact me on WhatsApp. And I can set you up with one of my local Nicaraguan friends who speak a bit of English, who can translate for you, who I trust. Having someone like this makes the whole country so much more accessible if you're an English speaker and you're nervous about your Spanish levels. It's also just a way to save money, because there's a bunch of ways to go travel in a country like Nicaragua and spend inordinate amounts of money because you're a tourist and people will target you. So when you have a local with you, they can point out to you when you could do the same thing and spend like 5 times less money, right? Again, the whole cost of this trip was $430 for 4 days on an island with 2 volcanoes. We hiked both volcanoes. We went to like this lagoon thing. We ate food. We rented things. We paid for guides. We got souvenirs, the whole shebang. We paid to stay in hostels. It was only $430. You could travel a whole week in this situation, live a bit luxuriously, and spend $400 per person for an amazing, crazy, beautiful vacation. And that is super cheap. Like, really, that is super cheap. People drop thousands of dollars for this kind of situation, right? So now that I've given you guys some context, let's explain a little bit more about the geography, right? So this is Nicaragua. Nicaragua is a country in Central America, this part of the Americas, okay? So if we go further in, we can see the capital is Managua. This is where I currently reside. I live over in, where's Bologna? This general area, okay? So I had to start the expenses from here. If you are visiting, you would have to pay for an airplane ticket, obviously, but I'm not going to include cost of airfare because it varies so much. And in my case, if you're already in Nicaragua, you don't have to pay for a plane. So we went to Ometepe Island, which is this right here. This is the volcano Concepcion, and this is the volcano Maderas. Maderas is a dormant volcano that has like a little lagoon on top that you can check out. And Concepcion is an active volcano, and it is much bigger. So we can actually see what Concepcion looks like if we change it to satellite view. Here we go. And then also what we can do is change it to 3D. And then you can kind of get a sense of what the volcano looks like. Both of these volcanoes are so big that they constantly have clouds around them. So you could think that you can go to the top and then you can see a crazy view. That is possible, but it's really hard to time that properly because like 90% of the time, there's clouds covering the tops of the volcanoes because they're so high. And this means that you just are in the clouds when you're at the top of the volcanoes. So that's what most people typically experience. If you're really lucky, then there's no clouds at that particular time by the time you get to the top, and you can see a crazy, crazy view. But that's not super common. Hiking Concepcion is much more challenging than hiking Maderas. Most people don't hike Concepcion. It's not as common for that reason. You can do it, but you're talking about like 4 to 5 hours, okay? And in our case, we tried to hike it, but there haven't been as many tourists to Nicaragua because of the political situation. And honestly, it's not because of the reality of the political situation. It's because of Western perception of the political situation. The reality is, as a tourist, you can go to Nicaragua and you're not in any more or less danger than you were before the political situation was crazy. Don't go to the protests, don't be associated with that stuff. But in general, people are going to want to impress you because you're a foreigner and they want you to tell your friends so that you can come and spend more money. You're going to have a pretty good experience regardless. So don't let the stuff you read online worry you too much. In my case, for example, I live here now and I want to and I love it and I think it's amazing and a very good decision for me. But if I looked online, people would tell me I was going to die. People would tell me that was a suicide thing, and that is just the wrong perception. What the online perception of Nicaragua is wrong. That is not what reality in Nicaragua is like, especially as a tourist. Like as a local, that's one thing because you're much more affected by the political situation. Whereas if you're a tourist, you are barely affected by it at all, aside from how you perceive before you come into the country. So, obviously do your research, but also understand that there's a lot of bullshit specifically about Nicaragua and the situation there. I live here, and I walk around in the street, there are guards outside of the house. I'd say hello to them, they're friendly to me, that kind of thing. It's not like a death zone, and people treat it like it is, which is really sad because it's an amazing country. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So let's go over the itinerary a little bit and we can explain what we did. So first we took a shuttle, and that was from Managua to Ometepe. Ometepe is over here somewhere, I believe. It's about halfway. There we go. Halfway between Rivas and Managua. A little bit closer to Managua. Once we were in Ometepe, we went to get shoes so that we could hike. So that cost us 450 cords per person. You can see the cost in cords here and then the cost in dollars. Just for reference, 32 cords equals $1. So the shuttle to Ometepe cost 120 cords or $3.75. And remember, all of these prices are for 3 people. So this is 3 times what it costs for one person, okay? So then in Ometepe, we got breakfast. We got local Nicaraguan breakfast. I had naka tamales. The others had like traditional Nica food and also coffee. And in total, that was $15, like $5 a person. And that's actually like relatively expensive. You can get food way, way, way cheaper, especially if you're just eating traditional food. You can account on finding local food for like 90 to 100 cords per whole complete meal. That's less than $3. Crazy, right? So we bought some shoes. Then we took a shuttle from Ometepe, which is here, to Rivas, which is over further down. Rivas is right here. And San Jorge is the port. So we were in Rivas in this area. Then we took a taxi. Oh, and by the way, the shuttle from Ometepe, something like this, to Rivas costs about 40 cords per person. Again, a bit more than $1. Then we went down, got a taxi to the port. Once we were at the port, you have to pay $1 to get into the port, and then you have to pay $1 more per person to get on the shuttle. Or not the shuttle, get on the ferry. So then the ferry takes you to Ometepe Island. And if you want to see Ometepe, let's go to give you guys some context here. We're going to look at some images of Ometepe. So this is Ometepe. You can see the 2 volcanoes. That's a pretty picture. This is the higher volcano that's on the left. This is Madeiras, the lower volcano. Pretty crazy. Some of the views here are insane. Like, it's definitely one of those things that you can look at pictures, but it makes the volcanoes look kind of small. Whereas in person, they're just constantly there. It's just like, holy crap. Insane. So we got to the island. And then once we were there, I think we landed in San Jose or Moyogalpa. No, we landed in San Jose. And then when we left from Moyogalpa. Next, what did we do? Next, we went to Ojo de Agua. That's right. So Ojo de Agua is a really beautiful swimming pool, basically. It is the end of an underground river. So the river comes in from the volcano and gets filtered through all of the soil, right? And then it comes up and becomes a more regular river in this area, and it's super, super clear water. And at first I was like, oh, it's just a pool. But then I put on some goggles and looked at it underwater, and it was insane because the sunlight lights everything up, and it looks so, so beautiful. It was really, really cool. Super relaxing place. It costs $5 per person to come here, and then you can buy like food and drink and that kind of thing. Beers in general are about 30 cords each, so you can count, no matter where you are in Nicaragua, you can almost always get beer for $1 a piece, okay? And usually you have to pick between like Tonya or Victoria, which are 2 like lighter beers. They kind of remind me of like Heineken or like Bud Light, something like this. Okay, so after that, we went to Café Campestre. So we were here in Ojo de Agua, and we started walking over to this area. We spent most of our time in Santa Cruz and Santo Domingo. Santo Domingo is a really nice beach with a bunch of houses, so it's a really common place that people go to. Super, super windy, but you can see it's like all sand across here. Okay? So we were walking down this road, and then someone in a truck passed by, and they gave us a ride for $1 a person, and they took us over here. We then went to Café Campestre, which is right here, and this place was awesome. So sometimes, like I said, in general, you can always find traditional Nicaraguan food for like 90 to 100 cords a person. That's reliable. If you want to find more variety, that can be a little bit tricky, and you usually have to pay more. But this place was awesome, and everything on Ometepe is essentially like farmed and cooked and raised and done there. So the quality of certain things is really high, and you don't have to pay that much at all. Café Campestre, for example, has curries, and they have like 12 different flavors of curry, and each dish costs 20 to 40 cords. So that's if you're getting the half portion. And I like getting half portions and mixing them. So I'll get like 3 different half portions, right? But that's super cheap. Guys, that's $1 for a different kind of curry. That's variety and really high quality. Like, that's really, really unusual. And it was one of my favorite places just for that reason, because you could go there and the food was really, really good. And if you're like American, you like burgers, that kind of thing, they also have all of that. And most of the restaurants on Ometepe that I saw, at least, are associated with one particular farm where they get everything from. It's a really interesting economy. And it's also really easy to underestimate how many people live in Ometepe. Someone thinks there's a butcher shop in the middle of the ocean or the lake. That's amusing. Ometepe is home to like 29,000 people. For some context, I used to live in Wheeling in West Virginia, and Wheeling has about 27,000 people. So there's actually more people on Ometepe Island than there is in Wheeling. Pretty cool, right? So after we went to Cafe Campestre, which is this place here, and again, they have the restaurant, they have lodging, they have the farm and all sorts of stuff. Then, where did we go next? We went to Campestre. Oh yeah, then we stayed at the hostel that's the farm place, which is Finca Magdalena. So Finca means farm, so this is Magdalena Farm. And they had a whole bunch of rooms. And it was cool because you could be out here and look at the view. And it's also happens to be the entrance to the Maduras hike. So one of the ways, there's multiple ways you can hike up a volcano, obviously. But typically you would use a path. And one of the ways with this particular situation was a path that was immediately behind this hostel. So you could stay here and then start your Maduras hike without having to take a bus anywhere. You could wake up, have some coffee, have some breakfast, get some water, and then just go. Like, that's really, really convenient. So this is a great place to stay if you are interested in hiking Maduras. And Maduras takes like 3 hours to hike, something like this, and it's a bit easier. Whereas the other volcano can take like 4 or 5, and some of it is like you have to be on all fours. You have to jump sometimes. It's intense, definitely. I underestimated how much physical activity there would be on this trip. But that's fine. It was definitely awesome. But when I got home, I crashed. Like, definitely crashed. So we went to that farm, and in total, staying there for 3 of us, staying there for a night and having breakfast and coffee, cost $32. So that was about $10 per person. After that, we were walking, right? So the farm area is over here. We went up here and we're walking along this road. And we went to a place called Chocolate Paradise, which is where they make a bunch of chocolate. Like, literally, it's like this little hut and some other buildings on the edge, so you can see the lake, and it looks really tropical, really beautiful. There's places to exercise and do other things. And you can buy chocolate bars there that are made, like, from cacao on Ometepe and sourced there, and everything is made there. So it's really, like, you know that what you're tasting is like it's raw, essentially, right? And each chocolate bar costs like $5. So that's pretty expensive for chocolate here. But you know, it was like the whole raw organic experience to a tourist. So that's what we did, and we paid like $5 a person there. And then we went to a local place and got breakfast. And you can see the price difference here. For 3 people with coffee, it was $200 or 200 cords. So that's like $7. That's crazy cheap, right? That was actually like 60 cords per person, and then like 10 cords for the coffee each. I bought a bottle of raw honey from the people who sold the breakfasts here. And honey here, whenever you buy it, is raw, essentially. It's like harder to find processed honey. You can buy it in like the supermarkets in Managua, in the capital, but most of the time any honey you encounter is like literally they take the honeycomb out of the beehive right before it gets capped. They put it in a centrifuge, spin it, get the honey out, and then they put it back into the beehive, and you have a literally bottled form of the stuff that's spun out of the honeycomb. That's the amount of processing that goes through it. It doesn't get heated, barely even gets filtered, like very little actually happens to it. So that's really amusing to me because that's $3.13. Whereas in the US, a bottle of raw honey that size would cost like $20. So it's so much cheaper. It's crazy. After that, we rented bicycles. And here's the point where if you're going on the vacation to get exercise, get a bicycle. If you're really fit, get a bicycle. But if you're going on the vacation to enjoy it, you should rent a motorcycle. Then it becomes much more relaxing because bicycling was hard. I was definitely like really, like I wasn't thinking about much else aside from like, holy crap. I'm like, I have no energy. Push down on the foot. Push. Okay, where are we going? Are we there? Oh my God, I don't want to be on this bicycle. And like that was my thought pattern for a while. But it was, that is life. You got to do the hard things and push through it, and it ends up being worth it. But if you're trying to relax, I would encourage you to rent a motorcycle instead. Renting a bicycle for the whole day costs $5 per person. Renting a motorcycle can cost $10 to $15, depending. There are some people who will try and charge you more when you could just pay less. So if you're willing to haggle, you can haggle incredibly effectively in these situations, right? Like I've seen people like locals be like, all right, so they ask how much something costs, and then the other person's like $10, and then the local's like $5, and then they're like, all right, like it's like just half the price of it with a word, and then the guy's cool with it. It's pretty funny. So here we go. Next, we rented the bicycles, and then we went to the southern part of the island to San Ramon. And we went on the hike to see a waterfall. So that goes up here all the way up to this area. Yeah, right here. So when you do that hike, you're actually pretty close to the top of the volcano. So we hiked a lot of Madeiras, but not all of it. And that was really cool. The waterfall itself, it's the dry season right now. So like if you see in that thumbnail, you can see there's a pool there. That pool was pretty small. It was like 5 or 6 feet in diameter. Whereas sometimes it's like 10, 15 feet in diameter. It gets much bigger than that, right? So that was really cool. That was like a much more relaxing hike than the hike later. Then we went back here on our bicycles and biked all the way over to, I think, right here. Yeah. We went here, got on some kayaks, and paid for a guide. So that meant that there was a group of 4 people. There was me, Lucas, Mauricio, and our guide. And we went over here, and we kayaked down this river thing. And that was really pretty because this is so, like, it looks like a river, but it doesn't actually have a current because it's just, like, part of two lakes. And it looks like a river because there's a bunch of foliage on top of the water that makes the river look like it's winding, when really it's much bigger than that. And most of the river part is actually under the foliage. And there was a bunch of different, like tons of different hawks. It's not hawks. What are they called? Herons. That's what they are. There were we saw like 20 or 30 herons. They were everywhere. And because they walk on top of the foliage that's like floating on top of the water. So that was really cool. And all the tours that we went on cost $15 per person when we had a guide. And if you look online, sometimes people will say that they charge like $40, $50. So if you guys want any of the contact information for anybody that I bring up in this video, again, you can contact me through my email. Check out the description for information about how to get in touch with me. And again, I have friends here, local Nicaraguan friends. And if you pay for their expenses and you pay them $10 per day per person, they will come travel with your group. They're really cool people. I trust them. And you're making a difference in like someone's life. And they are being super convenient to you. It's like a win-win situation. Like honestly, how many situations can you think of where you can go to an island with volcanoes and tons of like crazy paradise stuff like this, pay another whole person's expenses and pay them to be your translator and be paying $400 a week? It's super cheap. super cheap, and this covers accommodation and everything. Like we were traveling for 4 days, and it cost, the total was $430. So me and Lucas financed this, right? So we each spent $215 for 4 days. That's $53 a day. That includes everything. It's insane. Like, I mean, I live here now, so I'm getting more used to the cost of living, but it's so much cheaper. Like, it was so weird going from Nicaragua to living in the US, because I just kept spending money, and I would see it in Cordobas and see how far it would go. And like, there was a time I dropped like $50 on a meal. I was just like, holy crap. I could be on vacation and to do multiple things and be on tours and see crazy stuff and go on adventures for that in this other country. Like, it's insane, guys. Absolutely insane. But this video is kind of drawing out, so let me get to the end of it. If you want to pause the video and check out all these individual line items, feel free to. The rest is pretty standard. So after that, we did that kayak tour. We went back. We then went over to stay over here. We stayed at Santo Domingo for a night, and then early in the morning, we got a bus that went over here, and then we found a guide, and we tried to hike Concepcion. But because there weren't that many tourists, we got to a point where the path was overrun, and the guy with the machete had to keep like cutting stuff down for us to travel. And at that point, you go from it being a 4-hour hike to like an 8-hour hike. It like doubles or triples the amount of time it takes to travel when you have to literally cut the path in front of you, right? So in this case, we ended up deciding we would just turn around, and it was awesome. I still had a really amazing time because it was the first time I was in a rainforest. Like, you go up and at first it's dry, and then you keep hiking and you get to a point where you're in the clouds and in the trees, and there's constant water and precipitation on everything. So the trees look completely different because now they're covered in like moss, and it's really cool because you touch it and it's cold and you feel a bit chilly. Like, I had to take a hoodie. It was really cool. I had a really, really great time. So even though we didn't get to the top, I don't care at all. I was super happy. That was one of my favorite parts. Like the campestre place that served the curry and this. And then also I got a tour of beehives. I went to a bee farm and got to like take out honey from beehives for the first time in my life. And I got to like touch the bees with my bare hands and learn how like they're not that aggressive, and you don't have to be scared of them unless you give them reason to hurt you or attack you, or you move too quickly, or you fall on them or drop something, right? So that was really awesome. And again, reach out to me. I'll hook you up with all the contact information you need to do this same thing if it's something you're interested in. And if you want, you can check out my YouTube channel for more videos about Nicaragua. I've done a lot. I'm trying to do more and more. I live here now, so for what it's worth, guys, like I came to Nicaragua for 9 months. I left, I went back and lived in the States for 9 months, and I like Nicaragua more. I want to be here more. I think it is easier to be happy. Money goes further, and if you earn money from like a US business or something online, holy crap, the quality of your life could change so exponentially by the simple change of your geographical location if you have online income. Like, if you can work remotely, geez, I know it sounds crazy to go to another country, and like that sounds scary. And I used to, like, I had groups of people in the States. I knew friends in the States, and they kept me there. But then once I visited here, I made new friends. I made groups of people who I'm now even closer to than the groups I had in the States, and I relate to even more. And it's been amazing. So I know that if you look things up online about Nicaragua, and especially because of the political events in April, it's going to paint a really grim picture to you guys. So I'm telling you that, like, I came here after that stuff. I'm living here now, and I'm happy. This is what I want, and this is what I perceive to be the best place for me to be. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you want to support me, check out any of the links in the description and sign up for Skillshare Premium. It's pretty awesome. you get access to my course on YouTube and a bunch of other courses. All right, guys, see you next time. Feel free to contact me. Ciao.